Baylor should fire Dave Aranda in season. I know a lot of you, the first thing you'll go to is, no, wait, the recruiting class is so good. Or, oh, Drake, you hate Dave Aranda. Wait, pause. I have right here Dave Aranda and what he has done recently for the Baylor Bears. 3-17 in his last 20 against FBS opponents. Is that good enough? For a fifth-year coach, is that good? Is that what you want? Is that what you accept? 3-17 in his last 20 against FBS opponents. 0-9. 0-9 in his last 9 against Power 4 teams. On his third set of coordinators. Remember Eric Mateos? Remember Jeff Grimes? Remember Larry Fedora? We're just rolling. Who was the one guy? Phil Snow, or is that Matt Rule's guy? Ron Roberts. Remember Ron Roberts? He's in Florida now. Crazy, isn't it? But you know what the best part is about Dave Aranda? I'm reading off his stats here. Tuesday's practice was really good. I'm going to get here in a second on the benefits of firing him in season, getting rid of Dave Aranda in season. But I want you to know off the riff here, when you start to say, hey, wait, give the guy time, 5 years is time. He has his own guys. He has control of NIL. He has control of the transfer portal. He can do all that. He can build the culture. And at this point, he's not good with the media. Like there's not one thing where you go, hey, here's Dave Aranda's saving grace. Like the guys are good. The kids are good. No, he just suspended 15 of them for, or 10 to 15, whatever it was. And some of them were off-field discipline issues. I mean, I could tell you, and I know this is a cop-out. This is something that every radio host is like, I have inside information. When I was at Baylor, I remember being like, oh, that guy's transferring? Oh, he's not transferring because he wants to. It's because he did XYZ thing, has been kicked off the football team. It happens at every program, sure. But let's not act like Baylor is a bunch of choir boys. And if the standard is choir boys, you're probably not meeting it. And if you are, then are you choir boys or are you football players? I've always had a really weird thing. And I've talked to coaches within the program or that are now have left the program about the whole like person over player thing and that culture. And they're like, yes, but also player. We have to win. We have players. We can't just have that's a nice guy. We're 3-9. So he's 3-9 last season. This year, things haven't got off the ground for Baylor. They ran the victory cigar and all that. And that was crazy. I also want to read you this that Dave Aranda said this week. This is per Zach Smith, the Waco Tribune Herald. Aranda, in his post-game press conference about buy-in from the locker room, how it should translate to the field, says this. All of our boys are trying to win. That's good. They're trying to do good. They're trying to achieve, but there's a level of detail. There's a level of professionalism that has to be developed. Let's hold on to that quote right there. There's a level of professionalism that has to be developed. Keep that in your back pocket. Aranda continues. This league demands it. Until we get it, unfortunately, it's probably going to be stuff like this. The loss is what he's referring to. This is not acceptable, and we have to be able to demand it as coaches to get to that next level. Hold on. What you just told me, like this is the beautiful cardinal sins of what you're telling me here. There's a level of professionalism that has to be developed. Whose job is it to develop the players on a football field? Whose job is it to develop the young men in the locker room? This league demanded, and he says, until we get it. Who's we? Until the players get it? Unfortunately, it's going to be stuff like this. Like, until we're professional, it's kind of what it's going to be. This, losing by a lot to people. Iowa State this week. It's probably going to be stuff like this. This is not acceptable, and this is where he really loses me. And we have to be able to demand it as coaches to get to that next level. Dave? Why didn't you demand it a week ago? Why didn't you demand it 2 weeks? You've been the head coach for 5 years. If developing professionalism is the problem and the coaches are the ones who need to demand it, why haven't you been demanding that? Did you just figure that out? Did you just realize, like you, the guy who's talking about developing professionalism, who told me after the Colorado loss, yeah, the defensive play where we allowed a completed Hail Mary that eventually lost us the game, that was called victory cigar. We as coaches have to be better. Yeah. At demanding professionalism. But the players also, if they're not going to be professional, then this is just what's going to happen, I guess. It's stunning the rhetoric that's come out of Baylor for the last 2 years from Aranda, who has told you time and time again, the guys try hard, the kids try hard, the kids, they really want it. The practice was great. There's a care factor. He always uses there's a care factor there. But if you can't win, I don't care as someone who is a Baylor alum, but also a fan generally of college football and the Big 12 succeeding. You need a head coach who doesn't just have care factor. Like, man, if we were to do power rankings this week on who cares the most, I bet we could put Lance Leipold at number 1. I bet he cares more than anybody. They're 1-5. I bet Dave Aranda cares a whole lot. You're 3-20 in your last 3-17, that is, in your last 20 against FBS opponents. What's more, our coaches have to demand it. Dave, your coaches have been there for a year, 2 years. You've been there 5. You keep firing people because you can't get the whole head coaching thing right. Well, if we just fire the coordinators again, and then I'll be the DC, and we'll bring in Jake Spavital, and he can be the OC. And if that doesn't work, well, we can fire those coordinators. And then Baylor fans love to make the point, hey, if we don't keep Dave Aranda, these recruits are going to leave. You understand, in this age of recruiting, a whole lot of this is more revolved around assistant coaches, Keenan Hall, and NIL, playing time. That's what these guys. Dave Aranda's not walking into one living room and a 17-year-old's going, boy, that guy's firing me up to play. Woohoo! Berenstein Bears, the whole talking slow thing. I'll run through a brick wall for that. No. Lane Kiffin, maybe. Eli Drinkwitz, maybe. The salesman, maybe. Matt Rule. Not Dave Aranda. These players aren't committed to Dave Aranda. They're committed to Baylor University and a price tag that goes along with that. And the brand that goes along with that. And the opportunity that goes along with that. It's not hey, I want to play for Dave Aranda. I need to play for Dave Aranda. I want to play for Keenan Hall. That's why you fire Dave Aranda in the middle of the season. You start building around, hey, you assistant coaches, Keenan Hall, how do we build around you? You haven't been here that long. Aranda's been here 5 years because of, him firing people and stuff. Third set of coordinators. You're kind of new here. Can you stay? How can we move forward? The coaching search begins before TCU makes theirs, if they do. Before Arkansas makes theirs, if they do. Before Florida State makes theirs, if they do. If you want to compete with other schools, the second you get ahead and say, hey, if TCU wants Jeff Traylor or GJ Kinney or whoever, if we're the first ones there? We have this recruiting class that we can try to keep it intact. Not instead, we fired him after the last game. Now 20 of the recruits are leaving. No, we fired him mid-season and then 10 recruits left, 15 recruits left. Now we know, and Keenan Hall can readjust. Somebody can readjust until we get to midnight, and TCU's already looking too. And Texas Tech is going, we're going to hold on to Joey McGuire. I saw a Baylor fan say that Joey McGuire could be the next option. We're going to hold on to Joey McGuire. UTSA says, we can keep Jeff Traylor. And then GJ Kinney says, I'd rather go to TCU. If you're Baylor, at this point, you keep the pieces that are right, the pieces that are good at recruiting. You keep the NIL in place. You build back this fan support. I'm telling you, I saw it with TCU. They fired Gary Patterson and won their next game with Jerry Kill as the interim head coach. They won their next game. Fans were rejuvenated. I can't wait for the day that Baylor fans care again because their head coach shows some sort of fire and passion and consistency and not 3-17. That's not what this program is. It's not what it was under Matt Rule. And the culture of Art Briles was terrible behind the scenes. The winning thing, that if you can't separate those ever. But if there came a day where Baylor fans decided during that regime, this is what it's like to win, I like winning. So if you brought in a Matt Rule who didn't have near the culture issues off the field, if any at all, and said, that's what it looks like to have culture that's not against NCAA rules or the rules of moral code and ethics in general, and you can win with that. We would love to have more of that. And now Dave Aranda has all his own players, can control NIL, can control the transfer portal, just doesn't know how to do any of it. He's not a head coach. He keeps trying, look at his eyes during a press conference. He's trying to tell you. He's trying to communicate to you. I'm uncomfortable. Set me free. I don't know what I'm doing. There's a level of professionalism that has to be developed. The recruiting class might be great, but if the head coach is admitting that we as coaches have to demand our players to be developed, if the head coach is admitting that they're not developing players right now, that he can't develop professionalism, which is in his mind key to the Big 12, he's admitting to you that he can't, that he hasn't. He's had 5 years to do it. And just now, the coaches should demand it. Genius. He's trying to tell you that he's ready to go. It's time. Do it midseason. Get ahead of the game here. Bring the crowd back. Bring the fan base back. signed a ticked off alumni who's tired of seeing the team go 3-17, lose every game you have an opportunity to win. And at the end, the head coach says, well, we really wanted this one. We really thought we were going to win. Well, we called the last play the winning play. Victory formation, but on defense, huh? We let up a Hail Mary. I've heard this in press conferences for 3 years now. He's had one winning season at Baylor. Oh, the schedule's been so hard. Oh, it's been so tough. So hard and so tough for 3-9 last year? Yeah, I mean, brutal, huh? Coming up, this was my preseason projection was Baylor to be bad. They got Texas Tech on the road. I mean, now your Oklahoma State, TCU are winnable. West Virginia's not. You already lost to Houston last year, and they're better this year. And Kansas is winnable, too. Hey, Baylor could go 5-7. Uh-oh. And then guess what? When they do, keep Dave Aranda. He'll just fire all the coordinators, bring some new ones in. Hey, the recruiting class is great. We're not going to develop them. They're going to sit there and rot. But that number, that little recruiting number at 24/7 looked real cool, didn't it? I'm a good head coach. It's a grift. Coming up tomorrow, more football. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. I love college football. I get so passionate about it, especially the Baylor Bears. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.